Hi, I would like to welcome all of our participants on this investor roundtable with some amazing VCs. We have VCs from all over India, and Grigory is based in Russia right now. He's usually based in India, but due to the current pandemic, he's also spending time back home as well. So perfect. I'd probably like to just start off with a little bit of an introduction of myself and the Tech Hub as well. So I actually have been tagged as a serial entrepreneur myself, having set up several businesses across the globe, right from Australia to the US to Japan, Singapore, Dubai, and India, primarily in mobile technologies, in medtech, as well as in the FMCG space. And very recently, I took this whole approach and joined the UK India Tech Hub, where I felt that a lot of my experiences could help entrepreneurs in not only raising capital, but also building fundamental businesses. And the whole thought process of the UK India Tech Hub is to help entrepreneurs within the Indian region build fundamental business and hopefully over time help them in raising capital so that they could scale up, not just here within India, but globally as well. The UK India Tech Hub also has an amazing footprint across the globe through its international tech hub network that our digital culture, media, and sports team has set up in the UK. So we've got several launch pads spread across the globe, right from South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, Indonesia, Brazil, and Israel. These are where some of our launch pads are, and we can actually take startups from India into these other regions. And if they're really keen, we can also use the UK as a launch pad into UK as a market access, as well as the European business and hopefully the globe. So that's just a nutshell of what the UK India Tech Hub is about. We are a zero equity platform and program. So wherever we kind of develop programs, we don't take any equity for that. We don't charge anything for it. It's basically program driven. We have 4 amazing programs in the pipeline. One is called Covista. We've actually been talking to a lot of enterprises within the Indian landscape, and one of the biggest challenges that they're facing is being able to bring their workforce back into their spaces because they're fearful from the general pandemic and the spread. So we're trying to bring in tech entrepreneurs to try and deal with the pandemic a lot better, provide a much more safer space for these work forces, and hopefully get them mobilized as quickly as possible. We also have a Go Global Pitch India program, which we're trying to take Indian founders into the UK and help them expand into the UK as well as part of their roadmap and journey. We have a Go Global and a program that's basically called Women Go Digital, because we have a massive women population as well in India that is entrepreneurship led and is keen to go down the entrepreneurship route. So that's another program. We are really focused on people with disabilities as well. And the whole thought process there is to try and identify, again, tech entrepreneurs in this space and help them in scaling up and providing solutions to that specific community. Now, having said that, I would like to also thank all of my panel members to be taking out precious time out of their diaries and joining us. We have Ritu Verma from Ankur Capital. We have Ankur Jain from Sense AI. We have Chinmay from BNext and Grigory from Cabra VC and Vinod from Java Capital. So I would like you guys to come in. Maybe Ritu, if you can start off by giving us like a helicopter view of what Ankur Capital is about, and would love to hear a little bit from your side.
Sure, thank you, Anubhav. So Ankur Capital is an early stage fund, and our focus is to be investing in disruptive technologies for what we call the next billion population, so the mass markets. And I love this thought of the panel here because actually one of the things that we believe is that the innovations in these markets in India actually have a really large global footprint. We've seen that over the last 7 years as we've invested across different sectors. And we see it as a great place to start, but creating products that are and services that are actually relevant for a huge part of the world. Yeah. So we come in early, support entrepreneurs to grow and scale their businesses, and are gung-ho about technology and innovations for these markets.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ritu. Is there a specific ticket size that you guys also invest in? Yeah.
So we do somewhere between $500,000 to $1.5 million as our first ticket size, and we can go up to $5 million. We're investing about from a $50 million fund here. Awesome. And we've just started investing, and we're expecting to invest in about 17, 18 companies. We've done 2 investments and 2 term sheets in the process.
Awesome, excellent. And from an HQ standpoint, are you which city are you guys based in, or where's the HQ?
Interesting question. So we're based in Mumbai. Technically, we do have a presence in Bangalore. at this point of time, we're based everywhere. So
Awesome.
that's how.
And that's what it is all about. The pandemic has made it very easy for us to continue our virtual calls. And since we're all about tech, bring it on, right?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Ankur, if we can talk a little bit about Sense AI, really exciting to hear more about what you guys are up to.
Thanks, Anubhav. I'm very glad to be part of this panel. Sensei Ventures is a early stage venture fund, and our thesis we invest in AI startups, deep tech proprietary AI startups. What we believe that what electricity, let's say 200 years ago, what internet 2 decades ago has done, that's the massive impact AI is going to have over next 20 to 30 years, and it will impact across the sectors, across the geographies. Um, as I said, we come early. Our ticket sizes varies from 200K to 1 mil and top up with another 2 mil. Uh, we have invested through our first fund, and now we are investing to our second fund. And the other reason to be part of this, because one of our major criteria point is that the company has to have a B2B focus with a global expansion in the mind, and that's our core.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. Exciting to hear about the AI space. And it's good to know that you're focused on specific tech within the industry, which we'll ask more about in the further questions. Chinmay, be next.
Great. Thank you so much, Anubhav, for having me here. I think it's an amazing panel, as Ritu mentioned. So just to give brief background on BNext. So BNext is an early stage fund like everyone else here. We are headquartered out of Singapore. We have actually been investing for almost 5 years now. Pretty active in the Southeast Asia and India region as a focus. We do also have a dedicated SaaS specific fund that we run in Japan. Just to kind of give you a sense of the number of companies that we have in our portfolio, it's almost about 200 companies now in the portfolio, with about 80 in India that we've been kind of doing in the last 5 years. We are sector agnostic. I think what we really believe in is the ability of the founders to kind of drive an impactful business. And the core is obviously something that we depend on, which is technology, right? So technology-driven businesses could be in any sector. Bring on the data and network effects on top of it, and we'll be very happy to kind of talk to you as a founder. So that's a little bit about BNext.
Excellent. And in terms of ticket sizes, what's your usual ticket size? Where do you start off at and where do you cap?
Sure. So anything between $500,000 all the way up to $2-3 million is what like our comfort zone has been. But we've also kind of doubled down on our investments over the years with companies that we believe are changing the landscape. So we can participate in subsequent rounds as well.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much. Over to you, Grigory. And I'd really love to know what really excites you about India and what really excites you about India and a little bit about, Cabra VC.
Personally, everything excites me about India. I'm a great fan of India, and I've spent altogether 13 years of my life in India. But let's speak about Cabra VC. We are also an early stage venture capital firm. We started in 2016, and we have headquarters on Cyprus. But I'm working out of our office in Moscow. We have two main geographies for investments. The first one is US, and there we have most of our investments and portfolio companies. And 2 years back, we started to investigate India, and already we have 3 investments in Indian companies, which we're very happy about this. In terms of round size, we consider seed companies as well as pre-A and A companies. In terms of ticket size, we have different for seed. We are starting from 15,000 to 300 and something. And in terms of A round, it starts from 0.5 to 1.5 million with follow-on strategy, of course.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And in terms of HQ, did you mention where you are based within the Indian landscape?
With the Indian landscape, I'm usually come to 3 main locations. It's Delhi, Mumbai, and Bangalore.
Okay, so which one's your favorite?
Mumbai is my favorite.
Oh, okay. So I can kind of anticipate that you're a hustle and bustle kind of guy.
Yeah, but I like all parts of India
Nice, nice.
because of people, of course.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're very warm. Over to Vinod for JavaCap. Really excited to hear about JavaCap.
Hey, thanks, Anubhav. Thanks for having me. I know I'll start from where Gregory ended. We call Java Capital, for coffee, and we are in Bangalore. So, in a way.
Yeah.
So, we started in the middle of the pandemic. We are a pre-seed. Much earlier than any of the funds here. Looking at it, right? We typically do about 100K to 250K dollars. Tech being a focus with themes across, trying to be low cap and low opex kind of companies, with technology being a common focus. As we speak, we've done close to about 5 deals, about 4 term sheets again. All are early stages, really early than what most people are doing here in a way, right? Like we're just going and hand holding companies at the stage that we operate in, literally. Yeah. And that's it, I think, frankly.
Awesome.
Very early days, for Java, I guess. Yeah.
No, so this is great. So are you saying, and I just wanted to confirm here, that you've opened up a fund in the pandemic, in the middle of the pandemic?
Yeah. We started in May. We had plans.
Awesome.
Plans were in place for some time. We started, putting it out starting in May. We started on May 1st, literally. So,
Awesome.
and all the deals that we've done, is in the middle of pandemic, literally. So
Brilliant. I'm just getting goosebumps as you're talking to me about this, because it's like there's a storm brewing, right? And the storm is actually hitting the shores, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna make this happen. So brilliant. So kudos to you and all the best for everything. I'm sure you guys will have an amazing journey going forward, and
thank you,
and
Anubhav.
join the big table soon as well. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I would like to really move on to the next section of the panel discussion, and these questions that I'm about to ask you guys have pretty much come from founders in the industry that are looking at making it big and turning their passion into an actual full-blown fundamental business. So the first question basically, and I'll probably direct it to one or two of you guys and then move on to the next question. But this question I'd really like to pass to Chinmay. Chinmay, and the question is, do you think that the pandemic has drastically changed your investment thesis? And if yes, how?
So I think the first answer is actually it hasn't changed our investment thesis, to be honest. I think what has really happened is the fact that I think we have just adapted to the new normal of looking at things with a kind of a broader lens. I think because fundamentally we've always been driven by great founders who've actually been able to identify a problem very uniquely, right? And that has fundamentally not changed. In fact, it's the opposite. It's kind of accelerated dramatically. And if you look at some of the examples that we've seen in India recently, and especially during pandemic, I think the proof is in the pudding, right? So we've actually written term sheets in the pandemic. We've done about 7 investments across the region, including India, during the pandemic. And I can't imagine a time where I've felt, pessimistic about what's happening in the landscape. So I think when you have great founders coming up with interesting ways to address a problem, your thesis kind of continues to be what you have always been backing. Yeah. So I think in a nutshell, it's kind of not changed for us. I think what we've been able to do is it has allowed us to kind of look at things from a very unique angle. Some of the things that we were hoping would happen in the normal course of time, 2 years out, maybe, whether it's, shift in consumer demand or behavior, or, shift in the supply side scheme of things on most businesses, whether consumer or, B2B side, that's all been accelerated. So I think it's fascinating to see that the number of opportunities have also gone up dramatically in this time frame.
No, brilliant. And I probably want to now pass on to Vinod, because you've set up a VC right in the middle of the pandemic, and you mentioned that you've been thinking about this for quite some time. Has it changed? I'm sure pre-COVID, right? You had a specific thought process, and post-COVID, you might have changed that in any ways. I would really like to understand if there was a shift in that mindset or that thought process in general.
I think, Anubhav, there's not a significant shift is what I would say, right? I think, we still are continuing to stick to the theory that we go after good founders, large markets, and we're not and also making sure that, we're not getting sucked into a change just because of the pandemic. We're looking for sustainable changes, and is the change sustainable? I think those are things that we are consciously keeping in our mind, and is this for long, or is this a temporary blip just because of the pandemic? Given that the pandemic itself is quite a long one, currently, that's one thing we are conscious about, so that this happens beyond the pandemic. I think that's helped, keep the bearings right. And anyway, I think our investment thinking is changed. The thesis was never in place fully, I would say, because we started a
Sure.
little in the middle. The thinking is a little more changed, and we are more closely looking to de-risk by co-investing with others also. That's like change in slight strategy, if you ask me. We
Got it.
believe, there will be more money required to achieve PMF because of the uncertainty of the pandemic itself, especially in the first 3 months. That's what we looked for really. But I
Yeah.
think as it's panned out right now, when I look back, right, all of us, scrambled a bit in the first 3-4 months, right? I think all that scramble, right, really. When you look back, right now, it was not essential. It looks like, maybe now, all the hindsight, I'm saying, in a way. But now I think, the deal flow is like phenomenally huge. Like Chinmay is mentioning, there is like almost one in out of 3 deals is an edtech deal, and the deal flow is like I've never seen before. And I've been in the seed stage ecosystem for the last 4-5 years. I've never seen the level of deal flow that's happening today in the
Yeah.
last 5 years. Yeah, literally you're drowned. That's what I think.
It is definitely increasing for sure. And I think the contribution to a lot of people losing their jobs during the pandemic, a lot of people are evaluating if they should actually continue pursuing a job versus entrepreneurship, right? So I think that seesaw is something that a lot of people are on right now, which kind of leads into my next question, which I'll probably pass on to Grigori and the others as well. So this question is pretty much, in COVID-19, it's changed a lot of perceptions in terms of how we look at things within the market, especially from a startup and an investor standpoint. Now that we're in this new normal, are there any specific sectors you want to place your bets on?
You see, of course, pandemic period changed a lot of things in our life, and the most thing we mentioned that it caused a huge boost to purchasing power of people with most conservative attitudes to e-commerce, because it is safe, it's comfortable, and it's effective. And of course, so software and all the e-tools are now helping people to go online more and more. And this, of course, makes us stronger in our belief in in those sectors we are investing. I mean that we are focusing right now on customer engagement technologies, which reduce churn and help corporates and all businesses to onboard more and more clients. And talking about India, we are focusing right now on fintech, because all kind of fintech startups building a lot of tools and infrastructure for e-commerce, and which allows people to buy, to act freely on the internet. These are sectors which we are betting on, and we think that they will be developing more and more.
Awesome. Ritu, how about your side? What do you see happening over the next couple of quarters for you?
So I think not much changed for us. And I think deal flow, as a lot of people have mentioned, has continued to be pretty strong, if not increased during this time period. I think one thing that for us, we were kind of investing in sectors and markets that our thesis always was that technology enablement or disruptive, deep tech kind of stuff that's happening to enable these markets. Again, as some folks mentioned here, we actually see, tailwinds for adoption of this happening, right? So we do a lot of food and agri investments, and you see tailwinds because it's an essential sector. Healthcare, same thing, right? Education, similar kind of stuff. So much of the sectors that we were in were anyway technology enabled, we see tailwinds for, and we expect that these are, we know the deals that are in the pipeline are pretty much still very robust in these sectors. So very little impact, I would say, except for the acceleration on the customer side here, which is a good thing.
Awesome. That's really interesting. And Ankur, maybe tweaking this question slightly for you. If you were to look at like the top two sectors, if a founder were to walk up to you and say, you know what, this is a startup that I have, this is what I'm doing in the AI space, what would be those top two sectors that would really excite you?
Yeah. So as we invest in a B2B sector, our focus largely has been on B2B side. So I still believe that's largely been dominated from the way that how fast the B2C space is moving, because most of these B2B companies will be fueling the B2C sector. So in a way, the companies which are helping, let's say, the customer analysis, on the side of the customer analysis, which you're using emotion analysis or the computer vision, that's going to be your face recognition, because that's going to be the space where there's a lot of work has to be done. We believe that the voice AI is going to be great. There's a lot of, and especially a market like India, where there are so many languages, so many dialects, so much has to happen. So that's going to be a very, very interesting space. As someone was saying that the thesis is the next billion people, and when we go to the next billion people, will not go in the language of English, will go in their own language. So that's going to be our next big focus area. The other interesting piece would be the companies which would help SME focused businesses be smarter. So that would be the other sector which would be quite interesting to look at. One thing which we have seen during this pandemic, largely from a B2C space also, that the rate of the change of adoption has been very fast. So people have been talking about edtech, people have been talking about e-com, multilingual for some time now, but this 4-5 month period has fueled the rate of change, which will really help a lot of B2B companies in this space grow faster.
No, that's really interesting. I think the language point was spot on, I think, as well. I also believe the same, given the complexity in India. We definitely have to have a lot of intelligence in voice AI. Moving on to the next question. We've seen a lot of traction in, ed tech, online business, e-commerce. Even Grigory was talking a lot about it in his response. We're seeing a lot of traction due to the existing pandemic, right? As a result of this, we're seeing a lot of new startups pop up in this space as well. Do you believe that, we still have enough space for more players to kind of enter this space? Or do you feel that, it's just there's a fear of saturation, and also we'll have a lot more copycats come in? And I would like to probably ask Chinmay this question and then go off to Grigory as well to hear his thoughts and see what happens.
Sure. So I think my fundamental take, Anubhav, is that, there will be a problem, there will be a solution, and that solution will probably need to lead to new problems. So what will happen is continuously, and I think history has kind of shown us this, right? There will never be a saturation in any given sector. There can be a saturation in terms of just the kind of, definition that founders will end up using for addressing their TAM or, the overall market size. But the opportunities for great founders to disrupt will always keep emerging. And, a case in point is, for example, a few months ago, who would have thought you need, additional brokers for you to kind of trade in equity or any other kind of financial product, right? But you have example of companies like Zerodha, small case, who've been doing phenomenally well because they've figured out a particular angle to go and address a real customer need and making, that financial freedom accessible and ability to invest in a very, very kind of unfinancial way. It's been made very simplified. So that's an opportunity that some founder identified, even though the sector itself could be considered, saturated. And, so I think the golden rule is that, and in India, I think there is another unique advantage because I think we deal with so many changes at the same time as just people, right? This pandemic, as, Ankur was also talking about, has opened up the supply side of things to dramatic adoption on digital technologies, right? It's not been seen earlier. Consumer demand is one thing, right? You want to get stuff delivered to your house, you want to access the doctor. All that stuff will happen because that the consumer is ready to kind of do that. But what has always been a challenge has been the supply side scheme of things. Teachers have not gone online, so therefore you're finding all that tech. tech stuff happening on that front. Hospitals are not online, so you're seeing opportunities to bring that supply side into a digital first world. So I think there is still great opportunity. Bottom line, as a founder, identify that unique opportunity and just go for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's definitely encouraging, and I hope that all these participants tuning in find that motivation to kind of get up there and make it happen, right? So Grigory, your thoughts on this?
I'm totally agree with Chimnaya, because sitting here in Moscow, I'm every day keep on receiving a lot of startups pitches, and it is an endless story. People keep on producing new products, and especially in fintech. I think that India has doesn't have this problem of that there will be no place for new products. Of course, you have a lot of potential in every industry, and we see that these on that product and the new team are coming, and even second or third time entrepreneurs are coming to the sector. So I don't think that there will be any problem. And of course, India being such a huge country, I'm sorry, in terms of population, in terms of different type of cities, T1, T2, T3. So I think there will be more and more interesting companies, and more important that we see a lot of great founding teams, with a good experience and expertise. So I think there will be no problem in this.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. Vinod,
if I may just add, great. I just want to add one point with a very specific use case. When people were talking about EdTech, and Chinmay has said that there's always been scope. I'll just say let's and this is especially for the founders. Let's say EdTech as a case, nothing fundamentally has changed. It's just the way of teaching. People used to be teaching in a classroom. Now they are teaching in front of a computer. So the distribution has changed. There's still a huge scope that how the learning has to be taught, how the pedagogically things have to be changed. Can we make kids learn faster, pass exams, whatever. So there is definitely a huge. As of now, I will say, instead of having 10 malls, we are now having malls on internet commerce. That's so there's always been a great scope in all of these sectors which you talked about.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And yes, education definitely needs to drastically adopt and change for the exact new normal that we're in, especially even in the early years. I'm seeing a lot of challenges, especially, when we're looking at 3 years plus, that specific spot is still untouched, and there's definitely a lot of opportunity there. But my question that I was going to ask Vinod was, especially weeding out the copycats. We have a lot of VCs that have a lot of teams set up and processes set up to kind of weed out the copycats. How do you kind of like have that sort out in your overall process in terms of how do you weed out a copycat in some ways?
I think so. Fundamentally, I'm assuming copycats, you mean the same kind of a business model. That's what you're assuming, Anubhav.
Yeah.
I'm okay with copycats, frankly speaking, right? Like, that's how I would see it as, right? Like, our last investment, unannounced yet, is in a company which is doing coding for kids, right? If somebody looks at me and asks, what are you doing to do there in coding for kids again, right? Somebody might ask this, given all the noise in the. My sense is, copycats, as long as, there is something that you see which is very different, like what Chinmay was mentioning. Zerodha is a classic example, right? We had Sharekhan, we had so many other players in the market. Zerodha came and disrupted because, it changed how you trade in terms of, cost structures, or in terms of how the user interface is. So in a similar way, right, I would look at in the same space, as long as the founders show that there is something that's potentially possible, different, and address it in a different way. Either it could be on customer service, or it could be in some other, the product being great. No, I would still kind of, look at it. If it's an exact copy and, there is no thought on it, like that's like a real copycat, right? Where there's no modes, no thinking. And obviously, we would say, let's not do it. Like in a way, right? The current market is spewed, all possible potential options on EdTech, right? Every other company, like I was telling you, right, that's like a classic case, at least for current situation. We are looking at founder quality, frankly. I think that seems to be the benchmark, at least at our stage, right? I'm okay with the market being large. That's one more criteria. And the rest of it, I'm like kind of okay. I will kind of work with it. I'm sure that the founders are great. They'll figure it out. And that's the thinking, at least at our end currently on copycats, at least. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's brilliant. And you hit it spot on as well for me in some ways where we always, while doing competitor research, we might come across a very similar startup that we are building as an example as a founder, right? I think one should not be discouraged. They should actually take that as validation as well at the same time. And the more people you connect with, the more people you talk to, especially the VC community, you have the ability to look at things more from a 30,000 feet level, right? Whereas the actual founder may just be stuck in that overall environment that they're based in. So having that communication with individuals like yourself will always help them in evolving and developing it a lot more in line with what the market really needs. So thank you for that.
Although just to add that, right? I mean, after all the founder does a market or timing and not being a copycat or being a copycat, right? I mean, a lot of it depends on timing, right? Imagine the tailwinds that some of them have had, because of the current COVID, right? I mean, who would have anticipated like what happened to Whitehead Jr., for example? That's like tailwind, right? That's a little bit of luck also involved in the outcomes, right? So I wouldn't judge everything going by the outcomes alone in a way. Yeah,
absolutely. I think every business has an entry and an exit, right? That's something that I've always stayed true to as well. So thank you so much for adding that last point. This question is more from the UK standpoint, where we've seen a lot of VCs interested in the Indian market, and I think this is more a collaborative thought process, in terms of how do you see cross-border investment trends pan out in the new normal, and how can India and the UK benefit from each other in this regard? So do you guys see yourself sort of expanding globally in various regions, or are you open to collaboration? And this goes for pretty much everyone out there. So Ritu, maybe we can start off with you in terms of your overall thought process. You've just set up the fund, as in the funds there. Are you planning on expanding that in any ways, or looking at any cross-border collaborations at this stage?
So we've actually been investing since 2013 out of the, from our early stage, so we like to have an India focus because that's where we bring value and it's a market that we kind of understand. So it's really hard for us to go invest in different markets. So I think we would need feet on ground in order for us to do some of that, basically. Because I think despite communications, we've been talking about the benefits of the pandemic, right? But I think it doesn't take away from fundamentals here. We're all long-term investors. We're not doing a short-term market play because of the pandemic. So I think there are long-term things about these markets and market structures, et cetera, that you need to understand, especially as you're going in early stage, unless you're going with a co-investment strategy. So I think that being said, we have invested in companies that are not based in India. They're based elsewhere, and have nothing against investing in the UK or any such thing. We just need a good component of them to be to be focused on India, I should say. And as a stated strategy, we do have, especially when it comes to sort of disruptive technologies, that we will look at other markets as long as those technologies are relevant and the entrepreneurs looking at Indian markets to actually sort of grow their business where we can add value as a core of this thing. Yeah.
Excellent. So sorry, go for it.
Yeah, I think that there is still structurally challenges from people outside India investing into India. We've had lots of conversations with UK investors over the last 4 or 5 years. And I think there still is not a comfort level. There are obviously people who are perfectly fine. We have a UK LP and they invested in India forever and completely comfortable with it. But I think the new VCs in the UK, there is still an India barrier, right? Given our, structures, tax, blah, 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 all of that good stuff. It's not Singapore. So I think that barrier still remains to give people comfort to say, I will invest in India if I don't specifically start out with an India strategy.
Absolutely. I think, from what we've been talking about within the network, there's definitely a little bit of hesitation. However, I think the right collaboration could bring in the right capital as well. And that long-term thought process needs to be there in any investment strategy, right? So as long as I think there's that dialogue that we can establish and set up and try and see if we can, again, with the India focus that you're talking about, we can definitely look at potential opportunities in the near future. So it's good to hear that you're still open to that as long as, the India focus is there. Perfect. How about, Vinod, I'm not sure if you, like, because you're very fresh in terms of your operations, is that something that you guys have on your agenda as well, to collaborate with potential international funds that may not have a local presence and maybe represent them or co-invest with them?
I think very early in the day, and but the one thing that potentially in the next couple of years that we can see is can I help access the Indian market to somebody who's looking to invest in India but doesn't have expertise. Exactly, what Ritu said. I don't have or we don't have an expertise to invest in the UK. I'm sure there's a lot of liquidity globally, given how it's panning out in terms of returns. They want to invest in India. I think that's an opportunity for us, both to look at UK or other global markets to bring money into India. I think that's an opportunity that we'd be very open for. Hopefully that's the UK opportunity for us rather than we going into UK at this stage. Yeah,
makes absolute sense. Absolutely, perfect. So the next question that I would have would be around, India's built a few remarkable global products, and the need for more scalable innovations remain. What do you think Indian innovators need to build for the world? And this is like an open tank, in terms of what you think, if a new founder were to start something tomorrow, what would be some of the innovation that you think the world needs? And would love to open this up to Chinmaya and then Ritu maybe, and open it up for the rest of the floor as well.
So, I think it's a very nuanced question, right? So there are, there is always a possibility in today's, connected or hyper-connected world for some product to kind of go global, right? But there will always be challenges in a founder's ability to understand local nuances wherever that product is going, whether it's with respect to customers on B2B side or the consumer side of things, or just general mindset of people that you're dealing with. So I think you have to kind of allow enough flexibility as a product creator to be able to have that ambition of taking it to international markets. I think that's something that you have to start from a particular point of view. And while you may cater to it's like on the SaaS side of things, obviously a lot of companies have created great products and they've exported to the US. They've developed their understanding. They are able to kind of do lead generation completely online. They don't need to be in front of them. But I think you have to have the ability to kind of understand the local market dynamics as well. And that's a critical muscle that I see now Indian founders wanting to develop. So when do you take a decision to pack your bags and park yourselves for 2 weeks in the US or Europe or somebody something somewhere very close to where your customers are, to really understand how you can deliver that value, and then you're tweaking that product as you go along. So I think it will remain, the fundamentals will remain the same, whether you're doing a product here and then evolving the next set of features or the next version of that product here in India, or you're doing it for the rest of the world. But make sure that you're kind of understanding the dynamics of that market and what drives a certain kind of behavior of adoption and retention there. So I think the opportunities will continue to exist. I think some areas where there will be challenges would be typical the hardware category for that matter, right? Just that area where I think it's a big stretch for a lot of Indian founders, specifically focusing on that to say, hey, this will kind of easily port to a international market. So I think some of those dynamics have to be taken into account.
Nice. Thank you so much for those insights. Ritu, what do you think from your perspective?
I'm a complete believer that the next 10 years is going to be about India creating the disruptions for the globe, right? And I've seen that over the last 5 years, and I can talk through an example. And we're co-invested in this company with BNext. It's an ag tech company, and we were an early stage investor, one of the seed stage investors into this company in 2013 when the word ag tech did not exist, right? Essentially, and I think half the world thought we were nuts investing in this company. And the first customer was like in Portugal, and it was like Portugal, right? I mean, like this is incoming really, right? And went from being what we thought was a fairly India specific problem to being in 52 countries, right? So I mean, it just gives you the power of sort of saying that if you find the problem, right, that is a global problem, right, then there is immense opportunity. India has the skill sets to build those technologies, right? And, I mean, some of the development that they have is absolutely cutting edge, right? And, we've got an advisor on there who's like one of the best AI minds and says, look, They haven't really seen anything like this anywhere else globally. So I think we have the capabilities to do that. And I think the other thing that I'm bullish about is the fact that, I call this contextual innovation, right? So founders in India are innovating in the environment that they are in, right? And the a lot of innovation, and I'm talking about pretty disruptive innovation, has happened in like a Silicon Valley, and contextual innovation is Silicon Valley, right? So what happens is that technology has like it's sort of a trickle down effect before it comes and sort of hits markets like India.
Yeah.
But what's happening in India is that you're contextually, developing products here, and all of a sudden, because of the interconnectedness of very multiple different reasons, right? The problem, there's a large part of the world where market structures and how things work are very much like India. Take Southeast Asia, right? You take Africa, you take a lot of, other parts where the market is actually very, very similar, right? And so these solutions have been, Indian innovators are frugal. They're, working with very little, means here. They're bootstrapping, and all of that leads to a fairly robust product. And if the value proposition is global, I think you don't have a problem. We have another company that looks at breast cancer detection using a new methodology of thermal imaging, right? And I mean, that technology is being tested from Japan to India to US, because fundamentally human beings are the same and everybody wants a new one. But what it does for an India-like market structure is it allows breast cancer screening in markets where you can't have mammographies and fancy radiologists sitting, right? And again, that's something that unlocks markets. So I'm a huge believer, and I think the next 10 years, you're going to see TAMs of inventors and innovators in India actually be global.
It's really exciting to hear, the optimism and the positivity in that whole thought process. Thank you so much for sharing. Given that we have, the time has just flown by, and I just looked at the clock, we've got literally 5 minutes left for our session. And I'm going to jump to a question that you guys may not like, but I'm going to ask it anyways. It's a little controversial, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be heartbroken after I ask this. So I would like you to literally dive into your investment portfolio and pick up one of your favorite startups or investments that you've made, and tell us literally a little bit about, what is it exactly that you like about them? Is it their progression? Is it their innovation? Or if it's just their founding team? And given that we have 4 minutes left, if we can keep it within 30-40 seconds, that'll be great. So starting off with Chinmaya, and then I'll go this ways.
So you're basically asking us to choose favorites among all our children, right? So this is
favorite child.
This is going to be a hard one. I think I'll just take one actually a couple of examples, just to kind of indicate the diversity of the problems. One, I think if you look at a company called like No Broker, right? It's been around for a while, right? And just taking that whole market of real estate renting, which had like this whole decades old model that was being used for transactions and stuff like that, and then turning it upside down in a way which kind of unlocks more value for everybody in the chain. I think that's been one of the revelations, right? In fact, they've gone through ups and downs in various ways, even facing kind of resistance on the roads from brokers and dealers in the early days, but they've kind of kept at that problem, and really through high tech interventions from technology development, core R&D work, they've actually kind of been able to shift multiple levels in that segment. And the second example that I'll take very quickly is this company called Bharat Pay, right? If you look at the landscape of fintech, we talked about fintech evolution in India. Obviously the UPI stack was one of the game changers. But there was a time when there were many more wallets, and then this retailer or mom and pop shop or a kirana shop was expected to have like QR codes for every wallet to enable that transaction. And they just came up with a very simple idea saying, hey, you know what, one QR code for every damn thing. And that became like a disruptive trick or technique or approach. And then they're now uniquely building this whole thing on the UPI platform, growing the market multi-fold. So I think those two would be like one of the classic examples that I can leave you with.
Thanks, mate. Thank you so much for that. Ankur, on your side, something from your portfolio.
Yeah, so before that, we love our startups more than our lives. But if you choose between the two, I'll take the one which is on the latest one, which is the Monet Analytics. their patented AI technology helps companies analyze the way they consume the data using their eye movement, their thoughts, and everything. The founder is a serial entrepreneur. His earlier company, he sold it off to Intel for $500 million. Very, the clients of Warner Brothers, a lot of OTT players, based in US global market. So, our thesis has always been, so they tick marked on all of the places. The other company, which is India focused, is vernacular.ai, building a great product for, as I said, I think they have product in 10 languages, 17 dialects, uh, solving problems for the banks, the call centers, and the way, if you ever happen to call any of the call centers, the kind of interactions you will keep to, in the language, you'll never be able to differentiate whether you're having it with a AI or with a human being.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ritu. One of your favorites?
Yeah, so I'm always excited by the technology, but I'm going to refrain from talking about the technology because the thing that always then throws you for a loop is the tenacity of the entrepreneur, right? And so all the technology is exciting, otherwise we wouldn't have invested in them. But I'll pick one, but I think I've seen this play out with a lot of people. I'm just picking one that's sort of coming to top of mind.
Sure.
But it's just it's called Big Heart. It's an agri e-commerce platform, and guys have done a phenomenal job of executing and actually getting a business run with literally zero capital, right? So
Nice.
it's sort of going through cycles of actually motivating the team, hiring people, keeping on executing and growing, right? When you have the term sheets that then don't work out, you're through DD, you've dotted the last I and T, and the thing gets canceled. I mean, it's heartbreaking to sort of see some of this. But the tenacity is just something that, I hats off to that piece. And I think it's a humbling thing for all of us to sort of
Awesome.
see
Thank you
that.
for sharing. Grigori, from your portfolio?
Yeah, I would pick out of our Indian investments. And of course, we love all our startups, but I will take that one I will name because every startupper and entrepreneur and founder is interested in how what is the best way to attract investor and customer. And we think and cover that one of the important things, of course, it can be traction, idea, strategy, but the most important thing is how the founder articulates his idea and how fast and simply he can explain his idea to investor and client. And in these terms, I would like to say that we recently invested in Spenny, the service which allows you to just install the app, put your bank account, and start investments just with the click of a button. That's all. It's very simple and very interesting, and you just need nothing for this, only an app. This is very important. The idea.
Interesting. Thank you so much for sharing. Vinod, out of your most recent investments, which one would you pick?
Yeah, I think I took the first one, since, we've not announced a bunch of it. So I would rather take the first one. First one is, again, not for the technology, right? It's for the entrepreneur, rather. This is an entrepreneur who's come from, a tier 2 city in India, worked in some of the biggest companies, and then eventually decides to start, right? And his teammates are not, some of the ones you would see in typical startups, coming from, well-known colleges. And the team was super frugal in a sense, just 3 people they picked up from, some tier 2 city colleges, but they managed to stay together for a year. And I kind of, stayed with them for a year before making the investment. So that kind of, stays much longer. So I had the, privilege in some sense of seeing them for a year before making a decision to invest. So that's customfit.ai. Basically what they do is, they personalize the websites for SaaS players largely. It basically tries to figure out, is Anubhav coming? Is Anubhav a sales guy? Is a marketer, or is a CEO of this company? And it accordingly displays or changes the website. Literally changes the website, and makes sure that you like it. It basically welcomes you, for a B2B play. Unlike Amazon doing recommendations, which is customized. This is what B2B recommendation platform, if you will. That's custom fit. Kind of a strong bonding with the founder also for me. So I would like, it's like the first child in some sense. Yeah.
Nice. No, brilliant. I think Ankur probably is excited about helping you out as well in possibly the next round as well. So we can
Looks
probably
like,
draft.
all of them potentially could help me out.
But here I would suggest just have a term sheet sent off to Ankur. You never know, you might have your next 2 million signed.
Yeah. Thank you, Uncle. I'll call back.
You can choose any of the Ankurs, by the way. So
absolutely. We'll keep that star up and running. But in the matter of time, guys, I would really like to thank you from the bottom of our heart and at the UK India Tech Hub to share your wonderful insights. And I wish you guys all the best with your funds and look forward to interacting with each one of you in the future and hopefully meeting you in person. That's something that I've missed a lot. I'm sure you guys have as well, given that we are supposed to be out there in the market, meeting people and just making it all work. So thank you so much again for your time and your story for setting this up for us and making it happen. Take care, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thanks, Anubhav.
Bye.
Bye.